What I have here, the video is not about the greenhouse, it's about this. What is that? Looks like a mess. What that is Echinacea. We have some Echinacea plants up front. I think I'm almost positive they're Echinacea potpore variety. I'm gonna buy some seeds. Matter of fact, I just bought them last night, and they're on the way for Echinacea agriflora. I think it's agriflora, which is the one you really want to use for medicinal purposes. But this one is, they say you can use this one also. So this video is about how I'm going to make a tincture out of my Echinacea. And I've got more than I need. So let's watch that video. And it's a pretty simple process. And but it'll take a couple weeks for me to get all the pieces of this video together. But this is where we start, from some Echinacea that I've had drying out here for maybe 4 days, 5 days. Out in this greenhouse, it's dry. It's ready to go. So this is the first part, and then we're going to show you what I do up in the kitchen to get this ready. All right. So now we're back here in the kitchen, and I have brought that Echinacea, those Echinacea branches, stems back up here. There's actually 7 of them, and this is super, super dry. Look at this. Can you hear that? It's really, really dry. So this is what I'm going to be using. I've got my Echinacea. I've got a couple of clean canning jars. Okay. And something to cut the Echinacea stems up with a little bit. And I got this. Alcohol. 75.5% alcohol, 151 proof, Everclear. Look at the warning on this. See if I can get that to focus. I don't know if it's focusing or not. Warning, consumption may endanger your health. So, yeah, you wouldn't want to touch that stuff. Certainly not near an open flame. Anyway, that's what I've got. So today what I'm going to do is and I've got something to chop them all up with, yeah. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop up as much of this or all of this as I can. I'm taking the stems, the leaves, and the flowers. I'm taking everything. This is Echinacea potpore. And they say the roots are the best on either species or either variety of this flower. But I don't want to dig up the roots. I want them to come back year after year. This is from the front of the house. And I have plans, as I've mentioned, to get Echinacea agriflora and plant it in the back, and that's what you really want the roots for. It's better. The roots on that one are better, but in this case I'm going to use all of this. Now, what I did is I cut it a little late in the season. They were already drying up. I've seen videos where people say you're supposed to cut them when they're still tender. In fact, I've seen videos where they put the material before it's dried into the jars. So there's different ways to do it. What I do is, as it's dying off, I cut it. And then I dry it, as I've said, in the greenhouse. It's been in there 4 or 5 days. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this apart, untie it, break up all these leaves, dump them into this jar. Both jars are very clean. And then I'll show you what the next step is. It involves this, okay? All right, I got all of it chopped up, cut up. I forgot to mention what the other jar was for. I thought I might have enough dry material to have some extra, but I really didn't. I just have some of the hardest stems in there, These stems are, portions of these stems are from the base, which are probably better. I should probably use those too, but I just didn't chop them up. Maybe I will. Anyway, I thought I'd have enough. That's why they have a second jar. So 7 stems. This is a quart jar, and you see it's a little less than half. A little less than half. You have one head there, one flower head right there. And what I've been doing is taking my spoon, get in there, and just really mashing that down in there. I've cut a couple of those heads up. I may cut those 2 top heads up a little bit more, or cut those up also. But you can see it's really mashed. All right, so, and like I say, it's a little less than half of this jar. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pour in the bad stuff. And we're going to pour over the top. It's got to be all submerged in there. That's about that much. All right. And stir it up. Starting to float. Put some more. That's a lot. See what I'm doing? I'm agitating it, and it's fluffing as I do that. But none of it is above the surface of the liquid here. And that's what I want. The stems especially are floating, which is to be expected. They are almost hollow inside. Those are floating up in there. I'm giving it a good mix now. Get in there. Put the lid on this. Yikes. And I'm going to put the lid on this because I don't like smelling that alcohol that much. All right, so that's what it looks like. Looks like a mess. The stems are floating. The flowers are about in the middle. There's one right there. That's a flower. And then the leaf material, which is the easiest to work with, is all down in here. So what we're going to do with this is I may put a little bit more alcohol in there. As it starts to absorb, I'm going to watch this and make sure that the dry stuff doesn't extend above the top. And it looks like it's starting to do it already. It's soaking up the alcohol. So what I'm going to do is get it to the point where it's stable and it's not absorbing any more of the liquid, and I want just enough liquid over the top to cover it. Then I'm going to go put this in a cool, dry space for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and I'm going to come by and shake it every time I remember to shake it. Ideally once a day, but just whenever I get to that spot where I'm going to keep it. Shake it up a little bit and then put it back. And then the second half of this video will be the end result. And just a preview of that, the end result will be putting this into little brown jars with eyedroppers. And then we're going to use it for curing anything that ails us as far as colds and flus, and it can even be used topically, but I'll get into more of that in the second half of the video. So that's what I've done so far, and I will come back and share the rest with you in a couple of weeks. All right, it's been 1 week. I've had this stored in a cool, dry spot. Normally the lights are off in here. Let's take this outside, put it in the sun, and see how it's doing. All right. Well, so I've been shaking it, and some of the flowers have floated to the top. That's just a byproduct of being shaken. Let me see if I can lift this up without dropping it. Yikes. I'm noticing that the liquid, the tincture, is green. It's a very dark green. Oh boy, hope you can see that. Oh, this may not be focused. There we go. So you can see the flowers on the top. A little bit of green. It's not showing up on the camera, but I can see through it. Well, I can't see all the way through it. It is opaque, but I can definitely see into it, and it's green, very green. So that's a 1 week update. We'll come back in another week and process this out. Well, it's 2 weeks later, and I've been shaking this on a semi-regular basis. I think it looks darker. I think the liquid looks a little darker than the 1 week update. I'll take it outside and take a photograph like I did a week ago. Tell me what you think. I believe that the liquid is getting darker. Now today I was going to process it out at the 2 week mark, but I've been reading some things, especially an herbal medicine encyclopedia I have, and I'm seeing more consensus for 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm going to split the difference and do it at 4 weeks. So I got 2 more weeks. I'm going to add 2 more weeks to the 2 weeks we have for a total of 4, and we'll see how it goes. I believe it's looking a little darker. It looks like everything is pretty much in the same place as far as the material inside. No change there, but just a little bit more of a darkened hue to the liquid. That's the update. So, change in plans. I'm going to stretch this out for 4 weeks instead of 2. This is just a quick 2 week update. And yeah, maybe I'll come back in a week. Maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see. But that's where it is right now at 2 weeks in. Well, okay. It is September the 7th, 2023. And it has been exactly 1 month since I started this process. I think originally I was going to do it for 2 weeks and change my mind. I'm going to go 1 month. And today is the day. And let's take this outside in the sun and take a look at it before I open up the jar. There we are. It's really dark. Very, very dark. Oh, out of focus. There we go. All right. I'm going to take this upstairs and show you how I process it. Let me get it back in focus. I'll show you how I process it and put it into the bottles. Here we go. Okay, so here's the plan. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to slowly dump all of the contents, the liquid and the solid, into the strainer, metal strainer, and sort or filter out much of the solids. Very, very small holes. So it's going to get most of the solids, but some of the very fine stuff will go through. So I'm gonna dump this in, and I'm just going to leave it over probably a couple hours to get as much of the drippage off of the solid. Then I'm going to discard the solid It'll become hot compost. And then I'm going to take that liquid and I'm going to run it through a coffee filter. I'll probably just put the coffee filter back in here. Run the liquid through the coffee filter for the final filter. So it'd be two filter process steps, two filtering steps. First the strainer and then a coffee filter. That's my plan. After that, I'm going to install them or put everything into these jars. I got these jars on Amazon. I've washed them out. Everything here has been washed. I've washed all this out. These are 1 ounce amber jars with droppers. The droppers. Okay. And that's a 1 teaspoon dropper. I got these on Amazon. I'll put the link in the video description. Kind of neat. I got 4 of them. I also got this funnel, which is going to make it a lot easier to get it into that little bottle once I filtered it twice. Here's the item I bought. But again, I'll put that on, I'll put the description that I got from Amazon. And it came with some labels, which I will use. I will mark this with the title of the Echinacea and the potpourri version of that Echinacea plant and the date. Now, because this is alcohol based, from what I've been reading in the literature, its shelf life is almost endless. Okay, so it's not going to contaminate over time. It's not going to break down, especially in these bottles. So anyway, I will start this process, insert some photographs, and then we'll come back for a final roundup. And here we are. Here we are at the finished product. All right, so it's been about a month since we started this process, and we are done. What I've done is you saw me filter out the tincture from the solid plant material, and this is the result. 12 ounces of tincture. I had 4 1 ounce dropper bottles. And then I had to use a couple of my 4 ounce bottles because I had just so much. So what I've done is I've put it in the bottles, I've labeled the bottles, and I want to talk about yield, I want to talk about dosage, and then I want to talk about documentation. So first of all, the yield. You saw me use the bottle of Everclear, and here's the bottle of Everclear I used. And this is about a 750 milliliter bottle. And I don't know, is that about 3/4 of it's gone? Only about a quarter left, maybe a little less than a quarter left. I used that. I opened this bottle. So I used all of that with the exception of what's remaining. So let's call it 3/4 of a bottle of Everclear originally. And my yield is 12 ounces of tincture. All right, so there's that. Now, dosage. Now, well, let me go to the documentation first. I use the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine. That's where I start. I also have some online, some things I found online, scientific literature. I will reference all of that in the video description. But this has got all kinds of good stuff in it, including my page on Echinacea. Here's Echinacea here. And we'll talk about dosage. For tincture, the dosage is 1/2 teaspoon in water 3 times a day. So the application is like in a glass of tea. a warm glass of tea, maybe a green tea or a chamomile tea or something like that. And you're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon 3 times a day. All right. So what I've done is I've measured the droppers in here. When you activate the dropper, when you open up this and you squeeze the top of the dropper and you suck in the tincture, it fills the dropper about half full, and 1/2 dropper equals just shy of 1/2 teaspoon. I'm sorry. So when you fill that dropper half full, that's 1/2 teaspoon. Yes, 1/2 teaspoon. So the application is 3 half droppers per day. And I put it in tea, typically, a warm tea, which kind of helps the throat and makes it taste a little better. Now, if you're worried about the alcohol content, what you can do is add this to your tea and then microwave your tea till it's really hot, way too hot for you to drink. And just let it sit aside for a little while till it cools down to the point where you can drink it. And just being that warm and being out in the open, just a glass of tea sitting on the counter after it's been microwaved to the point where it's just too hot to drink. Maybe on a microwave on high for 1.5 minutes or something would be way too hot for me to drink. But after I put the tincture in there and I add it to the hot liquid, all that alcohol is just going to burn off. So you don't have to worry about that alcohol. If it's not a problem for you, then just heat your tea or whatever you're putting it in and then apply the tincture. Okay? Too much tincture will cause nausea. I think I read that here. Yeah. Caution, high dosage can cause nausea. So be careful of that. So we talked about yield, we talked about dosage, and we talked about documentation. That's it from beginning to end. This will last a very long time. Some of the videos and some of the things I've read, some of the literature I've reviewed, says that this alcohol-based tincture is just never going to go bad. It's never going to spoil. It's never going to get rancid. It's alcohol-based. So it's sterile. You don't have to worry about that. I'll put most of this in a cool, dry spot. I might tape down these labels so they don't come off. And the other one bottle will just be in the medicine cabinet ready for use. So that's how I make an Echinacea tincture. I hope you found this video helpful. Check the video description for the documentation and the links. I'll put the links to where I got the bottles on Amazon. Okay? They're not expensive at all. And I hope this helps. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope you have some success with this, and I wish you good luck. Have a nice day.